Representative Kurt Zellers is not seeking re-election to the Minnesota House, so he can devote his full attention to his gubernatorial campaign. The six-term veteran served as House Speaker during the 2011-2012 biennium. Zellers says his legislative accomplishments include legislation to impose life sentences for violent offenders following the murder of University of North Dakota student Drew Shadeen, and legislation that addressed the need for an adolescent mental health treatment facility.
Thank you, Representative Zellers, for joining us. As you reflect on your years in the legislature, what do you see as your greatest accomplishment?
A lot of it's on public safety. I don't know if there'd be one bill, but it was the public safety part of it. I think a lot of people consider public service or politics about pushing your agenda. We're for tax increases, we're for tax cuts. But a good friend of mine, Sheriff Stanek, said, you know what, it's about public safety. Never forget, Kurt, that's your first and foremost job is public safety. And so we've been passed the Drew Shadeen law. My mom was actually at the same mall on the very same day that she was kidnapped, buying Christmas presents for my wife and I. That really hit home because that is just a horrific situation that ended so horribly. But it was also the other side of it. Maple Grove is one of the fastest growing suburbs not only in Minnesota, but in the Midwest. And we have a lot of families just like Kim and I, small kids who got to go to the doctor for strep throat or colds, and you're going to have your next baby, Maple Grove, there's a lot of young families up there. And we didn't have a hospital, and it was a public safety risk because you'd either have to drive all the way to Monticello or up to Anoka or down to Robbinsdale. And 20 miles in traffic is kind of dangerous. So again, it came back to that public safety element. And then the last bill I carried as speaker was for a mental health facility for juveniles. I talked to a mom who literally was crying in my office, said, I had to take my daughter to Fargo because there were no beds here. You have to do something.
What are you going to miss most about being a representative?
The long nights on the floor. I know everybody says, oh, it's got to be horrible. You guys are down there. The camaraderie, and I played football, so it reminded me a lot of the locker room. You're kind of in this and, oh, we're going to be here for 5 hours, but there's that camaraderie. Well, we're in it together, we might as well make the best of it. So whether you're having pizza in the back or you're on the floor and listening to debate, and that's the part that I will miss the absolute most is those floor sessions with the camaraderie and the people that you meet when you first get down here and you see how everybody kind of moves throughout their career. And then what they turn their focus to, it's just great. And you go to rely on people. I joked a lot about Matt Dean as my brain when it comes to healthcare, and vice versa when it comes to taxes for him. But really, it's a great bond that you build with your friends on the floor to know the issues. And everybody talks about the great floor speech, or remember that one time when so and so fell asleep. I think that's the best part of it, and that's what I'll miss the most.
And you bring up taxes. Why did you make that your area that you wanted to focus in on?
When I first got elected, Ron Abrams, who was actually the justice that swore me in when I was speaker, he said, now Representative Zellers, there are a lot of things that affect a lot of people down here, but taxes affect everyone. Whether you're paying them, whether you're collecting them, whether you're getting a benefit from them, that's what makes government work, is the taxes, the revenue that we collect. And after being a part of tax committee, which quite honestly, for the first 2 years, you probably should just sit there and listen, and I did my darndest because it is a committee that even after 4 or 5 years, it's still a lot of things, institutional knowledge you have to pick up. And the longer I sat there, the more I realized that, whether it's a tax credit for new equipment, whether it's a renter's credit, whether it's, an inflator in the commercial industrial property tax rate, it literally affects how business owners and how the people who provide jobs in our state make their decisions to either expand or to not expand.
What advice would you give to the next person who fills your seat?
Pick an area that you are passionate about, that you know something about. You don't have to know everything about it, and then drill down and be an expert. And then, most importantly, don't be afraid to ask for help on the issues you don't know. Be willing to listen too, because that's half the battle. And let's face it, everybody down here is a Type A personality. They won their race. Everybody said you're the person, so everybody comes at it from a Type A personality, but you got to be willing to listen. Otherwise, as my old buddy Norm Coleman used to say, a man without followers is just a leader taking a walk. So I think it's really good to be a good listener. But and then love what you do. not a day down here that I have not had just a blast doing what I do. I think you have to like meeting people, you have to be outgoing, have to be willing to listen, and then, yeah, if people disagree, see if you can find a way for both sides to have a little bit of a win, but also to have an agreement at the end of the day. And if you don't like what you're doing, then it's time to go home.